All right, happy Sabbath, everyone.
Happy Sabbath.
Today's topic is titled Temptation. That's all it is, temptation. But what we're gonna talk about temptation is what is like. There are different forms of temptation. There are different forms of temptation. But one thing that temptation, a lot of people kind of associate temptation with desire, wanting something, being tempted to want something. But there's actually more to it than that. There's more to it than that, and we're gonna get into it. So today's class is not a long one, but we're gonna break down a couple of angles on temptation. Okay, so let's start out with Psalms chapter 95 and get verse 8. Because what I'm going to cover first is tempting God. Does God want, what we have to offer God is ourselves, serving Him. That's what we offer God. Ourselves. Keeping His commandments. That's our offering to Him. So, but when we say, when you tempt God, when you often hear about tempting God, what does that really mean? What is tempting God? Because we can't wave something in God's face and say, "Yeah, you want this, don't you?" God don't work that way. He's not, He runs the whole situation. So we're gonna cover we talking about temptation. We went over a list last week of what classes need to be taught, and this was one of the topics. So I want to kind of clear it up so people understand. There is a difference between temptation and I think what a lot of people are kind of, if I'm correct, kind of thinking in their minds, lust. Lust. Because lust, or what's that other word? Covetousness. Yes. There's actually a difference. We're going to talk about what temptation is today. So, like I said, get Psalms chapter 95, verse 8.
In the book of Psalms, chapter 95, verse 8. Harden not your heart as in the provocation, and as in the day of temptation in the wilderness.
So what is it talking about? It said, harden not your hearts. But when we talk about the end of it, it says, as in the day of temptation in the wilderness. So let's get that. Let's see what that's talking about. Go to Exodus chapter 17. It says, harden not your hearts. Exodus chapter 17, start at 1.
Book of Exodus chapter 17, verse 1. And all the congregation of the children of Israel journeyed from the wilderness of sin, after their journeys, according to the commandment of the Lord, and pitched in Rephidim, and there was no water for the people to drink.
So we've covered how the children of Israel were in the wilderness of sin, and we've covered what the wilderness of sin is. They was basically, their spirits was off. It was angry because they was taken out of their comfort zone. Well, what they saw as their comfort zone once they got out into the wilderness. So we talk the wilderness of sin. We talking about actual wilderness, and we're also talking about spirit of vulnerability. Spirit of vulnerability. Because when it's talking about the wilderness of sin, it's basically saying you got you have another spirit on you. Like you basically being tempted. You being, Let's get into it. We're gonna cover it anyway. Start at verse 1.
Read it again.
Yeah, read it again.
Exodus 17, verse 1.
Read verse 2. Sorry.
Wherefore the people did chide with Moses, and said, Give us water that we may drink. And Moses said unto them, Why chide ye with me? Wherefore do ye tempt the Lord?
So when it says that word chide, when I look it up in the Strong Concordance, chide means complain, contend, strive. Those are just a few words. But the chide means to complain. And Moses is saying, why y'all chiding with me? And he asked him, are y'all trying to tempt the Lord? So, go ahead.
Verse 3. And the people thirsted there for water, And the people murmured against Moses, and said, Wherefore is this that thou hast brought us up out of Egypt, to kill us and our children, and our cattle with thirst?
So the people complain and say, you brought us out of Egypt just to kill us and our children. Remember Moses said, okay, so y'all complaining against me, and y'all complaining against me because I'm y'all overseer, but y'all are tempting the Lord. Y'all tempting God. Go ahead.
And Moses cried unto the Lord, saying, What shall I do unto this people? They be almost ready to stone me.
So put yourself in Moses' position for a minute. Just think about it in depth. These people were angry. This is how angry they was because basically God had saved them. Well, not basically, God did save them, but they were so caught up in their flesh, they anger, that they actually couldn't see it that way. They looked at it like, well, Moses, you and God and balls out here to kill us. And now Moses is telling God, like, they really getting aggressive. Like, it's to the point where I'm worried about my life. Go ahead.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Go on before the people, and take with thee of the elders of Israel, and thy rod, wherewith thou smotest the river. Take in thy hand and go.
Go ahead.
Behold, I will stand before thee there upon a rock in Horeb, and thou shalt smite the rock, and there shall come water out of it, that the people may drink. And Moses did so in the sight of the elders of Israel.
So God heard Moses, and God told Moses what to do, how to handle this situation. So this is, again, even though our people constantly complaining, God is still taking care of them. Go ahead.
And he called the name of the place Messiah and Meribah, because of the chiding of the children of Israel, and because they tempted the Lord, saying, Is the Lord among us or not?
So that's another form of temptation. The Most High constantly providing for the children of Israel, but yet they complain against him. To tempt God is to complain against him. To tempt God, one form of temptation is to complain against the Most High God. Even though we have no reason to be upset. Even though right now we are at this very little moment, maybe we're a little vulnerable, we're going through a little test or a trial. In that time, that's when we are in danger of tempting God, because we may find ourselves complaining about our current situation. And that's what they did. Let's get some more.
Verse 8.
Go to Proverbs 28. Go to Proverbs chapter 28, verse 14. So let's get some understanding on how we're supposed to be.
Proverbs chapter 28, verse 14. Happy is the man that feareth always.
It says, happy is the man that feareth always. Why though? Because a man that fears, that's always in the fear of God, he's not going to tempt him. He's not going to tempt him with sin, by sinning in any kind of way. So he's not going to do anything that's going to sever him and God's relationship. Go ahead.
But he that hardened his heart shall fall into mischief.
Let's say he that hardened his heart shall fall into mischief. That's what he's talking about. Temptation. Understand, y'all, whenever we do anything against God, we're tempting him. Tempting him to what though? Anger. We're provoking him. We basically saying, we're basically pushing his buttons. We're trying him. We're trying God. Read that last one again, right? Or you just read the whole scripture again.
Happy is the man that feareth always, but he that hardened his heart shall fall into mischief.
It says, he that hardens his heart shall fall into mischief. Meaning he that stops caring, he that starts to do what he wants to do. He ain't fearing God no more. You're going to fall into mischief. Meaning your temptation towards God, is the level of temptation you're going to have towards God is going to rise. It's going to be, so what's a good one? It's going to be out this world. It's going to be, you're going to have so much sin on you. But it's like you're going to fall into mischief. All your ways, everything you do is going to be mischief. It's going to be mischief. You're going to be a problem. Get on. Go Matthew 16. I mean, not Matthew 16. Matthew 6. Read verse 13.
Matthew chapter 6, verse 13. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen.
So it says, lead us not into temptation. We've heard this scripture before, and we always thought it meant, don't, lead us not into, things that's going to make us want to do bad. But that's not entirely true, the whole scripture. It says, lead us not into temptation, meaning keep us away from basically getting to the point where we sinning against God because because our spirit is off. It says, lead us not in temptation, lead me not to tempting God. That's one way of looking at it. Lead me not to a point where I'm at a low level to where I tempt God. I'm angering God because I'm in sin. I would say when they lead us not into temptation. I don't want to, maybe they say, don't let me go off. Keep me on the right path. That's what it's saying. Don't let me go off. Keep me on the right path. Because when this is Christ talking. This is a Christ instructed us to praise the Most High. You notice, read it again. Read it again.
Matthew chapter 6, verse 13. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
It says, but deliver us from evil. Keep me away from evil. Don't allow me to destroy myself. Make my way straight. Deliver me from evil. If I'm going off, bring me back. Stand back. Use something. This is a prayer. Okay? So we're talking about temptation today. And we're talking about there are different forms of temptation. I said I'm hitting maybe a couple of angles on the different forms of temptation. So now go to Matthew 6. Jump up to verse 4.
Matthew chapter 6, verse 4. That thy alms may be in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret himself shall reward thee openly.
So this is another way. This is read verse 3. I don't know why I had to go. Read
verse 3. But when thou doest alms, let not thy left hand know what thy right hand doeth.
So when you're doing your alms, meaning giving, however you're doing, taking care of the church of God, which is the congregation, which is also the nation of Israel. It says when you're giving your alms, whatever it may be, whether it may be money, you providing service, you get food, whatever you're doing for the nation of Israel, it says, you ain't got to be telling nobody what you're doing. Okay? You ain't got to be all loud about it. Y'all see them people who put them videos on YouTube and Facebook and how they are helping the community and how they showing how they doing good service to their fellow men, and they want the whole world to see what they're doing. That's actually wicked. You're bragging. You're being boastful. So this is Christ instructing us on how we do things, how we go about not tempting God. Because remember, God does great things. The small little good deeds we do not touch what He's done. So what right do we have to brag? God ain't bursting the clouds open every day and bragging to us about what He's done. But He do want us to give Him the glory. But we have no right to brag. So we have to remember this. So these good scriptures to remember whenever you do something, maybe for the congregation, maybe for your brother or sister. Remember, not everybody has to know what you want. Nobody really has to know. Go ahead.
Verse 5. Verse 4. That thy alms may be in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret himself shall reward thee openly.
So you get your reward openly from God, not from man. God gonna give you a reward. Whether that be the reward that He give you may be the praise of men. But make sure you move in the way God tells you to move. This is a commandment. This is why I'm going over this, because this is how you can avoid tempting God. Go ahead.
And when thou prayest, thou shalt not be as the hypocrites are. For they love to pray standing in the synagogues and in the corners of the streets, that they may be seen of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward.
So we'll go back to the beginning where it says, when thou prayest, thou shalt not be as the hypocrites are. It says God calls them hypocrites. So y'all ever seen somebody standing on the street? Y'all ever seen some people standing in a circle praying in public? You know what I'm saying? Most I call that, Christ called that hypocritical. So don't be that way. He said, don't do that. We don't have to. People don't have to see what we doing. No, people have to see us praying to the Most High God. Read it again, huh?
And when thou prayest, thou shalt not be as the hypocrites are.
So Christ said that's hypocrites. Go ahead.
For they love to pray standing in the synagogues and in the corners of the streets.
So they love to pray. They love to be out here in the corners of the street, basically where everybody can see them. So people can say, look, there's a righteous man. There is a man that fears God. Well, they can't be too righteous if they don't know this. Go ahead.
That they may be seen of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward.
They have their reward, meaning they're going to get theirs for openly sinning, going against the commandment. And also they have their reward now. The praise they're getting from their brothers and sisters around them that have no idea that they're wrong. They have their reward. Go ahead.
But thou, when thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly.
So I'm going over this letting you know, this is how we're supposed to pray. If we do it any other way, we're sinning. We're sinning against God. Christ told us how to pray. He told us how we supposed to approach the Most High God. Read it one more time, verse 6.
But thou, when thou prayest, enter into thy closet.
Into that closet, go somewhere where you can be alone. Go ahead.
And when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly.
That's how you become blessed. That's how you get blessings when you follow instructions from God. You do things the way He told you to do it. You don't stand up and grab everybody's hands and put your head down and stand in a circle. That's the wrong way. This is clear cut. This is how He told you to do it. Go ahead, verse 7.
But when ye pray, use not vain repetitions, as the heathen do, for they think that they shall be heard for their much speaking.
I called you a heathen. He said, don't use vain repetition. Also, that also means when you ask for it, don't constantly repeat yourself. You're mocking God. If God wanted to hear you, He heard you. If He don't, He didn't. But you need to be praying the right way. They're constantly just shouting the same thing over and over again. You can sow His intelligence. Go ahead.
Be not ye therefore like unto them, for your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask Him.
That's what I just said. Oh, God knows what you need. And He knows if He gonna give you what you don't need but want. Understand something, y'all. And keep when we serving the Most High. We should all know by now. We should all be satisfied. We should all be content. What I mean, not content, not satisfied with knowledge. Gain as much wisdom and knowledge as possible. But as far as the condition that we in as a people, as a congregation, serving God, we should all be content knowing that God gonna provide to us what He knows we need. And if He wants us to have something like a little gift, something that we don't need, He gonna give us that. But if you never get it, you're supposed to understand you don't need it. So that's why you don't have to constantly poke at God asking Him for the same thing over and over again. He heard you. And as for the sinner, well, they don't even know how to pray. So we know He ain't hearing them. But so this is why like I said, this is a form of temptation. This is how we tempt God when we go against His instructions. praying how we want to pray, talking how we want to talk, and just claiming that he's going to bless us, even though we don't deserve it. Go ahead. Verse 9 to 11.
After this manner, therefore, pray ye, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
After this manner, after knowing all this, pray this. Go ahead.
Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors.
Right there. So that's Christ giving them just a little small, showing you out. Christ gave us instructions on how to pray, how to deal with, how to give alms, how to approach God. We have to do it that way. We can't go against that. Anything else is tempting you. You basically say, I'm gonna do it my way, and then you telling God, you're gonna do it my way, and you're gonna hear it. That's bold, but that's not who we are. That's not how we're supposed to be. Jump down to verse 16.
Verse 16. Moreover, when ye fast, be not as the hypocrites of a sad countenance, for they disfigure their faces,
Right there. Do y'all see that? Have y'all ever seen somebody fasting and they bragging about it? And you know, hey man, y'all fasting today, man. I'm fasting. They may not say it like that. You know, you got men and women fasting. And they walking around looking pitiful. And letting you know, y'all fasting. Christ said, nah. Read that again.
Matthew 6, verse 16. Moreover, when ye fast, be not as the hypocrites.
The hypocrites again, go ahead.
Of a sad countenance, for they disfigure their faces, that they may appear unto men to fast. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward.
And that's their reward. People know they fasting. There you go. Hey, yeah, that brother over there, he fasting. We ain't supposed to be. When we fast, you supposed to look the same as you would on any other day. Only difference is you ain't putting nothing in your mouth. That's how we supposed to be. You supposed to look like people supposed to look at you and be like, okay, you know they're not really supposed to suspect anything. Go ahead.
But thou, when thou fastest, anoint thy head and wash thy face.
Take care of yourself. Oil on your face. Wash your face. Wash your head. Oil on. Look good. Look good during fasting. These are instructions, people. Go to chapter 4. Jump over to Matthew chapter 4. Start at 1.
Matthew 4, verse 1.
Hold on real quick before we start. So that was reading that. That's talking about us, how we tempt God by going against what he wants. And it's more angles, it's more into it than just that. But how you tempt God, the way you tempt God is by sinning against him, by doubting him, by constantly receiving good things and still being ungrateful. So one thing, you sin against God by not doing things the way he said do it. Imagine your child, you tell your child to do something one way and they do it another. And they look at you when you get home, after you instruct them what to do, they look at you and they say, well, I didn't do it that way because it wasn't going to work for me. I did the way I want to do it. God hate that. He hate that. He don't want y'all us telling him how to do things. But that's why we are the way we are today, trying to do things our way. So that's one way of temptation. But now we're going to get into another form of temptation, and this is temptation against Christ. Go ahead. Matthew 4, start at 1.
Matthew chapter 4, verse 1. Then was Jesus led up of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil.
So notice when it said he was led up of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. He was led up of the Spirit. Go ahead.
And when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was afterward hungry.
So Christ had been fasting for 40 days and 40 nights. Imagine, I don't think any of us have fasted 40 days and 40 nights. That'd be a task right there. But imagine how you would feel. Maybe you got 2 or 3 days left. Now you done got to the point where starvation. Maybe you were strong. You were strong for a little while, but starvation kicked in. You're thirsty. You're frustrated. You got a spirit on you, and that spirit is telling you things that your flesh is desiring. It's a wicked spirit. Go ahead.
Verse 3. And when the tempter came to him, he said, If thou be the Son of God, command that these stones be made bread.
So that tempter is the devil. I'll tell y'all something. The devil is also is a spirit. It's an evil spirit. Because it's asking God, it's asking Christ, if you be the Son of God, command these stones to be made bread. Say, man, you the Son of God. You ain't got to go through this. Now use your powers and make the stone into bread. Go ahead.
But he answered and said, It is written, Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God.
So Christ, he handling the situation the way we're supposed to. Being that example that we all look to. Christ used the scriptures. Christ rebuked him. He said, God, man shall not live by bread alone, but by the word of God. Read it again.
But he answered and said, It is written, Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God.
That's the Bible. We're supposed to live by the words of God. So when we on them time, when we going through a hard time, we supposed to say the same thing. Man can't live by bread alone. So he's being tempted to do evil. He's being tempted to basically go against the Most High. But he keeping his spirit. He stepped into that Holy Spirit. And man still can't live by bread alone, but we live by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. That's how we live. That's why we are able to fast now, because we understand the scriptures. We're able to use them. Go ahead.
Verse 5. Then the devil taketh him up into the holy city, and setteth him on the pinnacle of the temple, and saith unto him, If thou be the Son of God, cast thyself down, for it is written, He shall give his angels charge concerning thee, and in their hands they shall bear thee up, lest at any time thou dash thy foot against a stone.
So he's basically saying you got the angels under your command. He said, read verse 6 again.
And he said unto him, If thou be the Son of God, cast thyself down, for it is written, He shall give his angels charge concerning thee, and in their hands they shall bear thee up, lest at any time thou dash thy foot against a stone.
Go ahead to verse 7.
Jesus said unto him, It is written again, Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God.
So he said right there, it said again, thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. They're basically saying, cast yourself down. And the angels, they're going to come, the Most High, you're going to command the angels to come save you. Remember, when we try to, what's that scripture we're talking about? Having someone, we need a sign from God. Say, I need a sign from God so I can know that this is right, or I know it's wrong. We know what's right and what's wrong through studying, through reading the scriptures. So asking God to send us a sign is a form of tempting him. Satan basically telling Christ, if you strike yourself, if you cast yourself down, do something harmful to yourself, the angels they gonna come save you because you God's son. Or having God turn the stone into bread. That's a form of tempting them. It's basically you saying, forcing God's hand. Go ahead.
Verse 8. Again, the devil taketh him up into an exceeding high mountain, and showeth him all the kingdoms of the world, and the glory of them.
Go ahead.
And saith unto him, All these things will I give thee, if thou wilt fall down and worship
So
me.
this morning he said he took him up, showed him everything that he could have if you worship me. The devil showed Christ all things he can have if you worship him, all the cities. Go ahead.
Then said Jesus unto him, Get thee hence, Satan, for it is written, Thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou
So
serve.
Christ is here. Christ is just bringing out these scriptures. We're cutting the devil up, saying, he said, Thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve. So Christ knew. Christ is being tempted to sin against God. And Christ is coming back with fire, saying, nah, even in his vulnerable state. But having fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he's tired. He exhausted. But he still got the strength to know, now, I'm not going to tempt God. I'm not going to tempt God by asking him to turn stones into bread. Let's go. And also, when I looked up the word tempted, it also means entice, to test. Tempting also means to entice, which is what's going on right now with Christ, and it also means to test. So he asked, does God tempt us? Yes, he does, but not in a way where he basically egging us on for something. He tempts us by testing us. He tempts us by testing us. And this is Christ also being tested, because God, who creates all the spirits? The Most High God. Most High God see who's worthy. He got to see who's going to keep his commandments when they at a lower state. Let's get some more. Go to Job chapter 1. Start at 1.
Job chapter 1, verse 1. There was a man in the land of Uz, whose name was Job, and that man was perfect and upright, and one that feared God and eschewed evil.
So Job was a perfect man. He was upright, and he feared God and eschewed evil. So Job was perfect and upright and feared God. So let's see what happened with Job. Go ahead.
And there was born unto him 7 sons and 3 daughters.
Go ahead.
His substance also was 7,000 sheep, and 3,000 camels, and 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 she-asses, and a very great household, so that this man was the greatest of all men of the east.
So Job was a wealthy man. He was, and from what the Most High is saying, Job feared God. He was blessed. So Job didn't want for anything. He didn't want for anything. So this would most likely make Job, a very happy person. He ain't had no pain in his life at this moment. Go ahead.
And his sons went and feasted in their houses, every one his day, and sent and called for their 3 sisters to eat and to drink with them.
So Job's sons will call for his 3 sisters. They call for their sisters to eat with him. Go ahead.
And it was so, when the days of their feasting were gone about, that Job sent and sanctified them, and rose up early in the morning, and offered burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, It may be that my sons have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. Thus did Job continually.
So what the sons was doing was they were celebrating their birthdays, and they were inviting their sisters to celebrate with them, and they continuously did this. Now, as you know, Job was a righteous man, right? Feared God. But this is sin. This is sin that they were celebrating their own birthdays. They were tempting God. How did Job tempt God, though? By not rebuking them. He never rebuked his children. Matter of fact, all he did was he went and he tried to make amends for their sins. Which we know, we all have to be held accountable for ourselves. And these were, when we read, these were not young, these men were old enough to know that they were wrong. So they cursed God in their hearts by celebrating their birthdays. the day of their birth. So Job should know that something's gonna happen. He's got to pay for this. Because when we sin against God, chastisement and affliction is coming. Was that verse 5?
Yeah.
All right, now go to Romans 1. We're going to come back. Romans chapter 1, start at 24.
Romans chapter 1, verse 24. Wherefore, God also gave them up to uncleanness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves.
So God said, God gave us up. When we constantly sinning and we not repenting, God gives you up to these things. He turns you over to it. If you can't let go of sin, the Most High eventually gives you over to it, and He allows that sin to destroy you. At least, and maybe He'll have mercy on you to the point where you can come back. But a lot of times, when He give you over to it, it's to destroy you. Maybe teach you a lesson, but a lot of times destroy you. Read verse 24 one more time.
Wherefore, God also gave them up to uncleanness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves.
So He said He gave them up to their own uncleanness, and this is what is going to happen to Job's sons, because they knew that they was doing wickedly, but they continually did it, and they was again tempting God. So we tempt God when we know that He's gonna be angry with us for something that we're doing, but we constantly do it. Basically, we egging Him on. Go ahead, verse 25.
Who changed the truth of God into a lie, and worship and serve the creature more than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen.
So that's what they did. They served the creature and not the Creator. These are Job's sons, so they should know better. But this is not just talking about Job's son. This is talking about us too. It's talking about all of Israel. Most of when you see our people falling deeper and deeper into sinful ways, and we see it all the time, because the Most High is giving them over to it. He allowing it. But when you see somebody who's supposed to be keeping the laws, and all of a sudden they fall away, now they're not coming around no more, and they going off to their own thing. They had a sin on them, and they fed that sin. They didn't repent. They was tempting God. They kept tempting them. Eventually to the point where God put such a spirit over them, now you don't see them no more. Now they're out in the world doing whatever they want to do. But believe me, believe this, they are going through it. Because one form of sin being in sin is pride. They probably won't tell you, but you can see it. You can see it. But that's what happens when you constantly tempt the Lord. Constantly doing what you want to do. Claiming to serve Him, but doing everything opposite of what He said to do. So let's go back to Job. Job chapter 1. This time we're going to start at verse 6.
Job chapter 1, verse 6. And there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them.
So like I said, Satan is a spirit. Go ahead.
And the Lord said unto Satan, Hence comest thou. Then Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it.
So God asked Satan, basically, what you want? What are you doing here? Where you been? He said, Satan said, been going doing all through the earth, looking for something, looking for someone. Go ahead.
And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job?
I'm sorry, not that. Go to Matthew. We're going to come back to that. Go to Matthew chapter 12. Start at verse 43.
Matthew chapter 12, verse 43. When an unclean spirit is going out of a man, he walketh through dry places, seeking rest and findeth none.
So this will say that Satan is an unclean spirit, and when it don't have a host, is looking for another one. Remember that. Go ahead.
Then he saith, I will return into my house from whence I came out. And when he is come, he findeth it empty, swept, and garnished.
All right, now go back to Job, chapter 1, start at verse 8.
Job chapter 1 verse 8. And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil.
So, why would God choose Job for this? This wicked spirit is looking for somebody to attack. Why would God choose Job for this? Well, one reason being Job had it coming. Job did rebuke his sons for their wicked ways. Another thing, he had to see exactly how strong Job is. He had to see how strong Job is. Because Job sounds like a blessed man, right? Job got a lot of things. Job don't want for nothing. So the reason God chose Job, because Job needed to be tested. And he needed some things sorted out in his life. So he's going to get afflicted and tested. Go ahead, verse 9.
Then Satan answered the Lord and said, Doeth Job fear God for naught? Hast not thou made a hedge about him, and about his house, and about all that he hath on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land.
So he said Job is, you got Job together. Job yours. Job is increased. What can I do to Job? Go ahead.
But put forth thy hand now and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face.
So basically what he's saying is, Job got everything. You say Job is a righteous man, he fears God. But Job has no reason to be angry with God. But he said, he said, if you do something to him now, he gonna curse you. If you take something from him now, he gonna curse you. You gonna get he basically trying to say Job's true self is gonna show. Now we know that Job really was righteous, but this is what Satan is telling Christ. I mean, not Christ, the Most High. Go ahead.
And the Lord said unto Satan, Behold, all that he hath is in thy power. Only upon himself put not forth thy hand. So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord.
So Most High told Satan, all that he has is in your power. Take it. Mess with it. But don't touch Job. Don't touch Job. So that includes Job's children. That includes Job's children. Jump down 22.
Job chapter 1 verse 22.
Let me say something. All through this chapter talks about everything that Job went through. How he lost his children, how he lost his animals. Everything that basically he needed, all he was using to survive. He lost everything. That's why Satan, Most High told Satan, touch all that he had. But read verse 22 and see what Job did when he lost everything, except for his wife. Go ahead.
In all this, Job sinned not, nor charged God foolishly.
So in all that, Job did not sin, nor did he charge God foolishly. And he didn't tempt God. He didn't say, he knew that. Job knew that hard times will come. He knew that. So he never once sinned against God. He didn't talk bad about God for what he was going through. Because Job was blessed. Job still is blessed. Job understood that he had to be tested. So Job was blessed, and Job knew that. So he didn't really he wasn't worried about. He wasn't gonna curse God. He wasn't gonna curse God. Then go to Job chapter 2. Start verse 1.
Job chapter 2 verse 1. Again, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord. And Satan came also among them to present himself before the Lord. And the Lord said unto Satan, From whence comest thou? And Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down it.
Go ahead.
And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth God and eschew evil, and still he holdeth fast his integrity, although thou movest me against him to destroy him without cause.
So the Most High said, how you consider my servant Job, whom basically has pleased me, even though I done did all this to him because of you, he still has not sinned against me. So jump down to read verse 4. See what he's saying.
Verse 4. And Satan answered the Lord and said, Skin for skin, yea, all that a man have will he give for his life.
So it said, if a man's life, Satan's saying, if a man's life is in danger, he'll give up all he has. So he said, we gotta go a little harder on Job. Go ahead.
But put forth thy hand now and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse thee to thy face.
So he said, put forth your hand now and curse and touch it. Basically, hurt him physically. And then he gonna curse you. Go ahead.
And the Lord said unto Satan, Behold, he is in thy hand, but save his life.
So the Most High said to Satan, go, okay, he in your hands, but do not kill him. Go ahead, verse 7.
So went Satan forth from the presence of the Lord, and smote Job with sore boils, from the sole of his foot unto his crown.
So Satan basically touched Job and had him covered in boils. Job's whole body was covered in boils. Imagine how painful that is. And you get one boil, it itch and burn. And you got a whole bunch of them all over your body, from head to foot. So yeah, Job got to be like, man, I'm going through it. I'm going through it. But go ahead, go to verse 9.
Then said his wife unto him, Dost thou still retain thy integrity? Curse God and die.
So his wife said to him, man, don't you see? She basically tried to say, you still holding on to your faith? So she done got weak. So you still holding on to your faith? She said, curse God and die. But this is what Job told her. What?
But he said unto her, Thou speakest as one of the foolish women
He
speaketh.
said, you sound like a fool. Go ahead.
What? Shall we receive good at the hand of God, and shall we not receive evil?
So we only receive good things at the hand of God, but not evil. I'm saying y'all, we have to keep that in our head. Why? Y'all think we only gonna receive good from God? And y'all think he's not gonna try us? You think he's not gonna test us? Chastise us? I think he's not gonna y'all think the Most High won't afflict us? People go through bad times and be ready to give up. Thinking, yeah, you found out you was Israel, you found out that you gotta keep the commandments. Okay, so this is only the beginning. Now you can actually have to work in your life. And you may be blessed. You're going to be blessed along the way, but you are going to go through some things. And we can't be getting angry with God. Tempting him. We can't be getting angry with God and tempting him because we somehow forgot that this ain't going to be no walk in the park. It's going to be good days. It's going to be bad days. But the blessing is that you're a being that the Most High is dealing with you. He's dealing with us. Go ahead.
In all this did not Job sin with his lips.
So in all this, Job did not sin with his lips. So he never went against the Most High God.
Just a quick precept on that. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28 and the curses. Kind of dealing with that real quick. Deuteronomy 28, start at 15.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 15. For it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe, to do all his commandments, and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee, and overtake thee.
Right, so this is part of that knowledge that we all knew, and Job knew as well, you know, that if disobedience happens, curses come. So one of them is what we were just talking about right there. Go down to verse, start at 21.
Deuteronomy 28 and 21. The Lord shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee, until he have consumed thee from the land, where thou goest to possess it. The Lord shall smite thee with a consumption.
Say the Lord will smite you with a consumption. Go ahead.
And with a fever, and with an inflammation, and with an extreme burning, and with the sword.
Right, it's the same thing he just did with Job, because now he allowed the devil to, you know, start doing things physically to him, and it's, you know, now he's starting to receive these different plagues that's not common. Go ahead.
And with blasting, and with mildew, and they shall pursue thee until thou perish.
He said they go pursue you until you perish, you know, but that's only, and when it's saying perish, it's saying only if you let your faith perish, if you let your works perish. So if you don't endure these temptations that come your way, they go keep coming your way until you pass it. It's just like in school. You got to keep repeating the same grade until you pass it. So until you die, these temptations, they go keep coming to try you more and more until something's perished. Something has to perish, either your faith or the sin. Something got to perish. It's going to either be your faith or the sin.
Okay. So let's get Sirach chapter 2. We just gonna hit verse 1.
Sirach chapter 2, verse 1. My son, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation.
So it says, my son, if you come to serve the Lord, prepare your soul for temptation. Many different forms of temptation. Whether you're going to be tried, or whether you're going to be tested, or the Most High is going to try you, is going to put you through something. So prepare yourself for temptation. Prepare yourself to go through some things. Get ready. Read that one more time for me.
Sirach chapter 2, verse 1. My son, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation.
So prepare to go through anything. Prepare your soul for temptation. Prepare for the many different obstacles that's going to come your way. Go to Genesis chapter 39. It says, if you come to serve him, you prepare yourself to be tested. Prepare to be tried. So Genesis chapter 39, start at 7.
Genesis chapter 39, verse 7. And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph, and she said, lie with me.
It's another form of temptation. But see, here's the thing. He's being tested on whether he's going to allow this woman's beauty to overtake him. Remember Joseph, y'all know the story of Joseph. Joseph was sold into slavery by his brothers. The patriarch of Israel. He was sold into slavery by them. And he went through, as one place he landed in this rich man's house as his servant. So the wife of this man had a little, she wanted to lie with Joseph. So listen what Joseph did. Go ahead.
But he refused and said unto his master's wife, behold, my master's wotteth not what is with me in the house, and he have committed all that he have to my hand.
So you're basically saying that he trusted me. My master trusted me. Go ahead.
There is none greater in this house than I, neither have he kept back anything from me but thee.
He said, he ain't kept nothing from you but you. He said, my master gave me many things, and he has kept nothing from you but you. Go ahead.
Because thou art his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?
See what he said? He said, because you his wife. He ain't held nothing back from me but you, his wife. He said, so how can I do this wicked thing and sin against God? See how he know? If I mess with this woman, I'm sinning against God. Do y'all know other people out there that actually don't think about it that way? When you commit something like this, adultery, some people don't realize you sinned against God. But Joseph knows I'm not gonna tempt God with this. I'm not gonna do that. That's another form of tempting God. I'm gonna mess with this married woman. The man who has given me everything, gave me a place to stay, made me a great person in his house, gave me a job. I'm gonna turn around and slap him in the face by messing with his wife, him and God. See, there's two forms of temptation going on with people. He's being tested and he's being tempted of this woman. He's being tested by God and tempted by this woman. Go ahead.
And it came to pass, as she spake to Joseph day by day, that he hearkened not unto her, to lie by her, or to be with her.
So she kept on trying every day to be with her. Go ahead.
And it came to pass about this time, that Joseph went into the house to do his business, and there was none of the men of the house there within.
So Joseph went in the house to do his business, but no, there wasn't nobody else. There wasn't nobody else in the house too. Go ahead.
And she caught him by his garment, saying, lie with me. And he left his garment in her hand and fled and got him out.
So he ran so hard that she must have known, like she grabbed on him. Like she got to the point where she was like, you know, you gonna do this. And Joseph like, nah, he took off so hard that he left a piece of his clothing in her hand. And she must have been holding on real hard too. She was gonna take advantage of Joseph. She was gonna take advantage of him, but Joseph was so righteous that Joseph ran. I'm like, really, you gotta be that afraid to sin. That's the point where you run, take off, running. Go ahead.
And it came to pass, when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand, and was fled forth, that she called unto the men of her house, and spake unto them, saying, see, he hath brought in a Hebrew unto us to mock us. He came in unto me to lie with me, and I cried with a loud voice.
See, that's a cold sister right there, man. Now, she was been tempting this man for who knows how long, really. And when she finally seen how serious he was because he took off running, now she want to basically say he tried to rape me. But I was able to get a hold of his clothing.
See how the Hebrews always get lied on?
And she lied.
They was getting lied on since
She lied and said, that look. And then she even threw her husband under the bus. Look what he brought in unto us. Brought a Hebrew in our house. So she was salty. She salty because this man didn't want her. But Joseph is the example that we're looking for here, because Joseph did the righteous thing. He fled temptation. He ran. Sometimes y'all gotta do that. Just do it. Run. 1%. Go ahead.
And it came to pass, when he heard that I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me and fled and got him out.
So that doesn't make any sense. He said he left his garment with her and got out. So she done flipped the whole story. Go ahead.
And she laid up his garment by her until his Lord came home.
So basically, she had the garment with her sitting there, waiting for her husband to come home, her Lord. So she could basically let him know what Joseph didn't do. Now only imagine what if Joseph would have sinned against God. Imagine how much worse it would have been. Now not only would he have been thrown in prison, he would have also had to deal with the wrath of the Most High. But because he did the righteous thing and ran, the Most High knew what happened for real that day. He had the greatest power in the world on his side. So he was destined for greatness. But I'm not trying to get off. What I'm trying to say is, we got to remember in all situations, serve God. Serve him. Do what we know. Do what you know is right in any given situation. Don't let being a little uncomfortable cause you to go into sin. Don't let being a little uncomfortable cause you to tempt God by sinning, whatever the situation may be. Because this is a situation of this man got a beautiful woman tempting him. That can happen to anybody. You know what I'm saying? Unless a man would have cracked under pressure. Unless a man would have probably said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do it. Just gave everything up. Go to Rock chapter 21. Y'all can come upstairs. So Rock chapter 21. Okay. That's the blue one. Oh yeah. So Rock chapter 21, we gonna start it, y'all.
Sirach 21 verse 1. My son, hast thou sinned? Do so no more, but ask pardon for thy former sins.
So this is true repentance. This is what repentance is. Have you sinned? Don't do it no more. But ask forgiveness. That's how you repent, by not doing it anymore. Because when you continue to sin, what are you doing? Tempting the Most High God. Go ahead.
But ask pardon for thy former sins. Flee from sin as from the face of a serpent.
That's what Joseph did. That's how we're supposed to be. Flee from sin as from the face of a serpent. Flee, run. You see a situation coming, you know this could get you in trouble. Run from it. That don't mean physically run, if that's what the moment called for. But no, sometimes it doesn't mean whatever way you can get away from it, get away from it. As if you stand in front of a serpent that's ready to bite you. Go ahead.
Flee from sin as from the face of a serpent. For if thou comest too near it, it will bite thee.
If you come too near, it'll bite you. Stop saying this. If you get too close to sin, it will bite you. It'll destroy you. It'll take you out. Go ahead.
The teeth thereof are as the teeth of a lion, slaying the souls of men.
It says the teeth are like the teeth of lions, slaying the souls of men. Sin can pull anybody in. That's why you gotta keep that. You have to have that wisdom and that knowledge. You see a simple situation, you don't ever think that you can just you can get through it. Don't ever think that you can just go and you can face a simple situation. No, you're supposed to run from sin. You're supposed to run from it. Was that on that too? There's it. Go to chapter. No, jump down to verse 15.
Sirach chapter 21 verse 15. If a skillful man hear a wise word, he will commend it.
A skillful man, I mean a learned man, hear a wise word, he will increase. He will commend it. Go ahead.
And add unto it.
And he'll add unto it, meaning he'll gather more wisdom. Go ahead.
But as soon as one of no understanding heard it, it displeased him, and he cast it behind his back.
He is a skillful man, y'all. And we talked this class today basically about what temptation is. Temptation, simply put, if God tempting you, He's testing you. Because God don't want you to go. God does not want you to sin. He don't want you to sin. Whenever God tempts you, He's testing you. He wants you to make the right decision. He gotta see if you're a soldier. He gotta see if your faith is real. That's one way. And when we tempt God, it's not the same. Us tempting God is us sinning against Him. So take from what you heard today and add on to it. Add on to understanding what temptation is. Apply it. Apply the knowledge. Know it. If I'm tempting God, that means I'm doing something that He don't like, and eventually, He's going to give me over to it, to the sin that I'm in. So, flee from sin. If you got some wicked ways about you, come up out of it. You got anything more?
Let's go back to Matthew 4 again. Matthew 4, let's start at 3.
Matthew chapter 4, verse 3. And when the tempter came to him, he said, If thou be the Son of God, command that these stones be made bread. But he answered and said, It is written, Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God.
Verse 5.
You just start over.
No, verse 5.
Okay. Then the devil carried him up unto the holy city, and set him on a pinnacle of the temple.
Right, so I just want to hit that again because, in verse 3, it referenced them as the tempter. When it says the tempter in verse 5, it explains that the tempter is the devil. So I just want to get a couple precepts on that in regards to the tempter and the tempter being the devil. So let's get James chapter 1.
Who?
James chapter 1. And let's start at verse 13.
James chapter 1 and verse 13.
Guys, let's start at 12, my bad.
Verse 12. James chapter 1 and 12. Blessed is the man that endures temptation.
See it, so it says, Blessed is the man that endures temptation. Go ahead.
For when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which the Lord hath promised to them that love him.
So the ones that endure temptation receives the crown of life. Go ahead.
Let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God.
You see that? So whenever temptation comes, don't say that this temptation came from God, okay? Go ahead.
For God cannot be tempted with evil.
It say God cannot be tempted with evil. Gotta be mindful of that. God can't be tempted with evil. Go ahead.
Neither tempted he any man.
And neither does God tempt any man. Neither does God tempt any man. So whenever that temptation comes, you gotta consider, God is allowing it. Same way how we read earlier with the story with Job. God, He's allowed it, but He didn't tempt him. Go ahead.
But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust.
Read that again.
But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust.
It say a man is tempted when he's drawn away of his own lust, and also like how you were saying earlier, it goes in with being enticed. That's also what the last part say. It say when he's it say neither when he's drawn away of his lust and enticed. It say so anytime that temptation comes, it's because that's your lust and that's what entices you. When that temptation comes, it's just a reflection of what entices you. That's what we got to start looking at. Read that one more time.
Verse 15. James chapter 1 15. No, 14. But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed.
Right, so it says, so whenever that temptation comes, it's based off what you lust after, the things that entice you, the things that make you think about losing discipline. That's what's gonna come your way. Go ahead.
Verse 15. Then when lust hath conceived, it bringeth forth sin. And sin, when it is finished, bringeth forth death.
It says, so what's gonna happen is it's gonna bring forth sin. If you allow that temptation to win, if you allow the temptation to win, it say then that sin is gonna bring forth death. If you allow the temptation to win, that's what's gonna come next, death. If you don't fix your sin, say then comes death. So let's also get let's get Luke chapter 4. So we got to be mindful of that, because even though the temptations is the devil, but we got to be mindful the temptations that come our way is based off your desires. So you got to be mindful when them temptations come, and if you fall into a temptation, you got to be mindful that you are the devil. You got to be mindful that you are the devil now, because remember it said the tempter is the devil. And if you the one bringing those temptations, you are the devil. Let's get Luke 4. Let's start at 12.
Luke chapter 4, verse 12. And Jesus answering said unto him, It is said, Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God.
Go ahead.
And when the devil had ended all the temptation, he departed from him for a season.
And so when all the temptation is done, it goes away for a season. It goes away for a season. Same way like in that Matthew 12 when it was talking about the unclean spirit. It'll go away for a season, but then it comes back. Go ahead.
And Jesus returned in the power of the Spirit into Galilee. And there went out a fame of him through all the region round about.
And that's how we got to look at it. So we got to either the temptations that come, we got to be real mindful of that. The temptations that come, if we don't beat it, we are now the devil. If you don't beat the temptations that come your way, you the devil. But if you do beat the temptations, you pretty much return like Christ. You return back the power of the Spirit. If you endure that temptation, you pretty much represent the power of the Spirit, like verse 14 said. And that's what we got to do. We got to represent the power of the Spirit. So the only way you can do that is if you endure those temptations, meaning you get through it with still being obedient. But when you're not obedient, you gave in to the temptation, and now you're the devil. You are now the tempter. So let's go back to James 1 more time. James 1, let's hit 15 again.
James chapter 1, verse 15. Then when lust had conceived, it bringeth forth sin. And sin, when it is finished, bringeth forth death.
You see that? So once you're done with all your sin, if you fall into temptation, it says the only thing that comes next is death. So what's the safety message? Go ahead.
Do not err, my beloved brother.
It says, so do not err. When you got to start recognizing the temptations. And like how verse 14 also said in this, it says the temptation is based off your own lust. So the temptations that come into your life is just a reflection of what you lust after. It's a reflection of what you lust after. So gotta be mindful of this. That's all I'm gonna do.
Let's hear Matthew 6.
Matthew 26, verse 6. That's good. Now when Jesus was in Bethany, in the house of Simon the leper, there came unto him a woman having an alabaster box of very precious ointment, and poured it on his head, as he sat at meat. But when his disciples saw it, they had indignation, saying, To what purpose is this waste? For this ointment might have been sold for much and given to the poor. When Jesus understood it, he said unto them, Why trouble ye the woman? For she hath wrought a good work upon me. For ye have the poor always with you, but me ye have not always. For in this she hath poured this ointment on my body, she did it for my burial. Verily I say unto you, wheresoever this gospel shall be preached in the whole world, there shall also this that this woman had done be told for a memorial of her.
That's the memorial of Mary Magdalene. Let's get 1 Corinthians 11, 23.
1 Corinthians 11, 23. For I have received of the Lord that which also I delivered unto you, that the Lord Jesus, the same night in which he was betrayed, took bread. And when he had given thanks, he brake it and said, Take, eat, this is my body, which is broken for you. This do in remembrance of me.
So this bread represents his body.
After the same manner also he took the cup, when he had supped, saying, This cup is the New Testament in my blood. This do ye as oft as ye drink it in remembrance of me.
This cup represents his blood.
For as often as ye eat this bread and drink this cup, ye do show the Lord's death till he come.
All praise to the Most High God. Let's close out.